What is up, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Dennis and Andy Show on this wacky, thriving Thursday is what I mean to say. It is a thriving Thursday. Couldn't do it yesterday, had some personal obligations to take care of. So we said, you know what? We're not leaving our guys hanging without a week of the beautiful, awesome Dennis and Andy Show. We'll just do it on Thursday. That's all. So here we are this fine Thursday afternoon. After the show, we are going to go see Equalizer 3. Denzel, the real Equalizer, not Queen Latifah. She's the TV Equalizer that I can't even buy for a second. The Denzel one we're seeing.
Well, all I'm going to say is I hope it's better than the Ahsoka show that I've been forcing myself to watch for you peeps.
That's right. Me, haven't watched it. Don't really plan on it. So there you go. So yeah, we're here today. We are going to talk. Last week's episode, if you remember, was comics of the 90s with our special guest Rob Hunter, who was, even though he's right around our age, he was really a child of the 90s when it came to comic books and collecting and stuff. This week we're talking comics of the 80s, great books from that wonderful decade, the 80s. And what better guest to have for that than somebody who's a little bit younger than us, but has the passion and the love for the comic books of the 80s that Dennis and I do. None other than Fraga Boom Boom Boomstick.
Two things. A lot younger.
That's well, I don't know if I'd go that far.
And two, I've been bamboozled. You said something about TNA.
No, I said DNA. DNA.
Okay, I'm here. I guess I'll be here.
That's your age again, man. That's what I'm saying. I do believe you have passed the half-century mark, so you're not that far off.
I'm not quite getting. I don't know what your definition of far off is, but if you think 4 years is far off, you were mistaken.
And just remember, you are closer to me than you are to Andy. Just remember that for future reference.
Doth protest.
That's fine. You
can. So guys, 80s comic books. 80s was an absolutely wonderful, wonderful decade to get comic books. It really was for me when I started.
Oh, I got those.
Collect. Oh yeah.
Hey, wait, Dennis, you're totally blown off saying hi to people in the chat. Rick, hello. Mr. Chemo, hello. Blackjack, Marcus Kelligrew, Randy Howell, what is up? Squids, JP Roca.
Rick was first. He hopped on this morning just to see us.
Leg kick into his house.
What up?
Geek Avenger, Duck Bacon. A lot of fun guys here. Joe Bernardo, aloha to you as well. Damafino, Repairman, Jack, the John Byrne. Yo, we'll be mentioning John Byrne for damn sure. You know we will. In fact, you just while Dennis is jabbing some Amish Ninja, hello. Darkside, Geek Avenger, what up, everybody? I'm going to grab something while you're chatting because I thought of something. Speaking of John Byrne, my favorite Byrne stuff in the 80s.
Oh, boy.
Maybe not Dan's, but it's definitely mine. No guessing, Dan. You just have to wait.
You could walk away and then I'll guess.
So
no, I can still hear you.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, just go ahead. Let him hear you.
Okay. So I have a sneaking suspicion of what I think it is.
All right. Well, we can start off with this then. What is your sneaking suspicion?
Not Hulk.
No. And I like that. I loved it. Dude, I was a Byrne head in the 80s.
Oh, I'm a Byrne victim,
here's what
bro.
I think your favorite Byrne was.
That's right, baby. The whole freaking series. Yeah. When this came out, not this actual book, but when I was buying that book monthly, you can see the poster right back there. I had that hanging above my bed when I was a kid, and I was luckily able to find it again about 20 years ago. But when Alpha Flight came out, that first issue that Dennis held up just jumped out at me. The cover, the costume designs. I felt the book. I know you got a nice 9.6. I mean, it's no 9.8. But
well, you know, dude, I have multiples. I think I have a 9.8, but it doesn't really matter because this was Sasquatch. This was hands down my favorite Sasquatch.
Oh yeah,
and I thought Puck was cool.
Puck was cool because you know, for a short guy, if he had an average size PP, he was looking large.
So I did have the wonderful blessing of holding every single page of Alpha Flight 1 in my hands.
How was that?
Because Rob Liefeld used to own it.
He had the whole issue?
He had the entire thing. And I got to sit there and go through it and look at it. And yeah, it's up there. It's up there as far as favorite stuff for sure. It is my favorite. Now, well, real quick, back to the story. So I bought 2 copies of every issue of Alpha Flight that Byrne drew, and I always bagged and boarded them, but the second copy, whatever you want to call it, I never opened. When I would go back and look at it, I would just open, you know, one of them. So I had a whole run of Byrne Alpha Flight that right off the rack, right into the bag and board that were never opened. Sometime a few years back, I know I got Andy Smith you real quick. I bet you didn't do it with rubber gloves.
I did not.
Sorry,
that's Aaron Lopresti
Carry on.
But and you know, look, I collect his all from issue 232 of Fantastic Four and up. Got his whole run. Got all the Incredible Hulk stuff he did. But I got to be honest. What's up, Phil? Zaid in the house. This is my favorite period of Byrne inking. Right here, inking himself.
Bjorn Heine would give him a run. You know what I'm
saying? I do remember that.
Yeah.
Just remember, because the Alpha Flight exploded from the pages of X-Men, which
it did.
The 80s X-Men run, which I was going to save that for later. It really was some of the best X-Men in their storylines. And one of the things that wasn't a actual comic book up there, but it was the graphic novel, was God Loves, Man Kills.
Yeah.
I remember when this bad boy came out. This is my original copy. You can see it's bent. It's been read many, many, many
sticky
times.
Pages.
This is
sticky.
It's always sticky pages. This was just great. This was an absolutely phenomenal thing. I mean, it was $5.95 back in the day.
I know.
And,
that was a lot of money for a kid.
What's
that? That was 10 comics, man.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
You know, the interesting thing about the 80s that I can, and maybe I just we can take events, but we could take sort of crafted events like the death of Superman or the breaking of Batman's back or whatever. But I feel like the most important storylines and the biggest paradigm shifts happened in the 60s and the 80s.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
We haven't had anything like it since.
Yeah.
There it is. Of which, there's one of the shifts right there.
There it is. Right
now
there.
Stop jumping ahead so far, Dennis. You're just stepping on Dan. Dan was
I was stepping on you. We should have just gone like 80, 81, 82, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
This when I saw that as a kid of Guardian, I was just like, man, this John Byrne guy's just the nut.
I can ruin that picture for you.
Nah, go ahead, but I won't.
I'm gonna Photoshop a John Byrne Hulk right underneath him.
Oh, that won't even compare.
It looks like he's riding the Hulk.
Oh, you can do that. That doesn't ruin it,
Dan. You know, Andy, that doesn't ruin it for him. That
I know. It's like now I really love the comic.
Now I want to see it.
Wait, was that Guardian and not North Star?
Oh, that was Guardian. You know, I will say, because you brought it up, so North Star and Aurora were two of my favorite characters from the book. And when he was doing those backup stories where he was doing the little origins of everybody, so he gave Guardian that splash page. He gave, what's up, Moromi? He gave Shaman and Snowbird like a half panel or half page.
Yeah.
So not a full splash, half whatever. I don't think he gave Sasquatch shit, except the nice, there were some big panels in the origin, and he didn't give North Star and Aurora nothing. And when I saw that Guardian and saw that he was doing these origin stories in the back, I was like, oh, I can't wait for the North Star Aurora splash page. And I never got it. And I'm like, damn it, Byrne, what the hell?
They didn't connect. Like, for me, they didn't connect. They look like Wonder Twins to me.
I think that's why I liked them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, I love the Wonder Twins.
Form of, an animal, cool, water stuff.
Well, I know.
That poor guy.
I know, and it's the dude that turned into water.
Yeah.
He was always the bucket of water.
But see, that's the thing. Does he also turn into the bucket?
Yes, he does. Which is an issue. So
therefore,
be able to.
So therefore, he's not just a water guy. He can become a bathtub. Right?
I guess, as long as it can hold water.
Right. So he should just be like form of water tower.
I was thinking you went water tower and I went bladder. So
yeah. Oh, nice.
Of course she did.
Form of full bladder. It all up inside Zan or Jaina, whichever one.
That's right. That's right.
Good times.
I wonder how many drunk people in the middle of the night sat out in the park drinking beer, discussing the ins and outs of the Wonder Twins and
drunk,
how
probably
long their
not drunk.
abilities are.
I wouldn't say drunk.
No. But I tell you what, even though, it's funny because I pulled out some trades for stuff, and it is earlier 80s stuff, but right here, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Frank Miller on Daredevil. That was another one. I really didn't pay that much attention to Daredevil until I saw the Frank Miller stuff. And I was just like, wow. Who,
in your opinion, because this is a bold one, I'm just going to use a metaphor. Who was the brightest, most powerful of batteries in the 80s? And what I mean is powered the most projects, powered the most stuff. Because when I think about the names on my list would be Byrne.
Yep.
Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Simonson, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I would even throw McFarlane in there. Right at the end.
The reason I would stick with Byrne is because Miller, it's pretty much Daredevil. McFarlane is Spider-Man. Simonson's Thor. Simonson and Byrne. Simonson and Byrne.
Year one, Dark Knight, Ronin.
Yeah, that returns. Batman Year One.
Batman Year One.
Yeah, I totally blanked on year one. That's true.
I know,
and he did have a great run because didn't he leave Daredevil and then come back, and that's when Mazzucchelli did it?
Yes.
Yeah. So no, that's true. I totally forgot about that stuff.
Yeah. That's why it's worth consideration.
Yeah.
But I guess I would still say Byrne though, from the output.
Yeah. So
the amount of work.
We got X-Men. Did he do any Avengers in the 80s?
Oh man, I don't
think he did. He did a
Avengers,
lot. He did Fantastic Four.
Yeah, Avengers, X-Men, FF, Hulk, Alpha Flight,
She-Hulk,
Submariner. Oh no, Mariner wasn't. Take that back.
Oh, was Namor not in there?
That was 90s, I think. Yeah.
Man of Steel.
That's what I was going to say though. Yep. Man of Steel. Yeah. He made the jump. Yeah.
All the Kirby Fourth World stuff.
No, that was 90s.
Was it? I thought that was late 80s. Okay.
No, because when he made the jump to DC, he did the couple Teen Titans things, before Man of Steel or right around it. But then he did Man of Steel. Then he got on Superman, monthly, and pretty much stayed on that going into either early 90 or maybe by 89 he was off. I can't remember, but I remember Wonder Woman and Namor. I remember him in the 90s, but then damn it, maybe
look at that. We're forgetting, some of the most important stuff right here. One of the best runs, man. I'm telling you, the
Nobody's
Dark Phoenix Saga, the end of it. This is all
no martyrdom for you. No martyrdom for you. Nobody's forgetting that.
Everybody forgets it except me.
Man,
on that exact same thing, and then there's Frank Miller.
Yep, I totally forgot about that too.
Based on that one, the Elektra, which I guess is still.
Elektra counts, but yeah, dude, great point. I totally forgot about Wolverine, and I still have the original 4 issues I bought as a kid, and recently got #1 slab because I saw what it goes for.
And Daredevil 168 when they introduced Elektra.
Now the other part of it, because those are guys that were amazing artistically and creatively because they were on many cases powering their own ship, writing the stuff, drawing the stuff, sometimes inking the stuff, sometimes even coloring the stuff. But the 80s also ushered in almost a new era of superstar. You got your Art Adams, the Liefeld, Lee, McFarlane, Larson, like the whole Image bunch, Silvestri. They all were like blossoming out of the 80s, and I wonder now if the 80s didn't produce more of what we consider superstars than, say, the 2000s or 90s. Because when I think of the 90s, I think of J. Scott Campbell, Joe Mad, Stephen Platt. Maybe
I think of Bocello for the 90s.
Yeah, but in all of those guys we just named, do any of them compare to the thunderous movement of the needle of those other guys?
I don't think so, because they were all, the guys you mentioned from the 90s and stuff were almost offshoots of all those guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if there was no Art Adams, there wouldn't probably be a Joe Mad.
Or a Jim Lee or a McFarlane.
Well, that's the thing with Art for sure. But then if you want to take the names of Jim Lee and Rob and Silvestri and all those guys, I mean, if they never ran off and started up Image and did that, you wouldn't have J. Scott, any of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. And the funny thing is, when you mention those guys, $5 from the rabbit hole. Thank you very much. All hail Weezy Simonson, the X-Men Office's secret weapon.
It
was fantastic.
Big time. She's amazing.
That's why I killed. Well, that's another thing. I'll bring up that after I finish.
Oh, the ladies of the 80s?
Well, ladies of the 80s, but not only that, but how, and it's not as much anymore, but it was maybe 10 years ago when it was, guys don't want women in comics. And it's like, what are you talking about?
I could list them. I could list them all.
It's such bullshit. It's just like, there's not as many women that want to do comics as men.
Severin, Flo Steinberg, Jander Sema, Colleen Durant. I mean, I could just keep going.
June Brigman.
Yeah.
June told me when she got hired at Marvel that they were just like, oh my God, a woman actually wants to draw comic books? Yes. This is awesome.
Right.
Not the bullshit that they were trying to spin like 10 years ago of, it's a boys club. They won't let us in. Wrong. But no, what I was going to say is when it's funny because I know that Todd started in the 80s. I know that Larson did. I know that Rob did. And Jim Lee did. And obviously, Silvestri started before any of them in like 82.
Yeah.
81, 82.
Yeah.
So not so much Silvestri, but honestly, when it comes to like Jim, Todd, Rob, and Larson, I always think more 90s because to me they didn't, except for like Liefeld and McFarlane, to me, it's like, well, Jim did hit his groove. Like
dude, they all popped at the end. At like 89 was a motherfucking year.
It was.
Right. That's just it. It was like 89. So that's why I never really consider those guys.
I call that year my sweet spot. And I tell the youngsters, that's why I'm the young geezer. I tell the youngsters 1989 was the sweetest of times because you could walk into your comic shop and get a Simonson, a Byrne, a Miller, a Keown, a McFarlane, a Silvestri, an Adams, a Liefeld, a Lee, some new guys you never seen before, all on the shelf at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah.
My buddy and I were just having a conversation. I still remember going into my local comic shop. I was in college. I walked in and it was, I mean, my stacks were so big because there was so much great stuff. Not only some of the old timers, but all those new guys coming onto the scene. Man, just bought lots and lots of books at that time.
Well, and Kevin Wolf brought up Mignola. That's true. I mean, look, I first discovered Mignola inking because that's what he wanted to do. Dan, you probably know the story. He wanted to be an inker because he didn't think he was a good enough penciler.
Yeah.
Or artist to pencil. And then you might remember this. I don't remember what editor it was that basically told Mike you should pencil.
I think it's Carl Potts.
Could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think Starlin more 70s.
Starlin 70s.
Yeah. I mean, he did Dreadstar in the 80s, sure. And I mean, he's still doing stuff, but I think of him 70s. But Mike, I remember him inking. And then when it was just huge when him and Byrne switched titles and he went to Alpha Flight from Hulk and vice versa. And I was just like, as a kid, I wasn't a huge fan of Jerry. Is it Gary or Jerry Talawick? His inks?
Don't know.
Dude, if you know the stuff when Mignola was drawing Hulk, that's who inked it.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. His Hulk is so definitive. I wasn't
Who's
paying
that?
attention.
Mike's?
Mignola's Hulk is so definitive.
Yeah.
But for me, I remember when that happened, and I was like, he's no Byrne. You know what I mean? Like, poor Mike, because another thing he did with X-Force 8, he's no Liefeld. Like, he kept getting that, like, he's no so-and-so, because, but
X-Force 8 at least was... Oh, we're getting there. Don't you worry, Wiley Draws. We're getting there.
We're talking Spider-Man at some point here, obviously.
Spider-Man, Captain America, Punisher. But no, Mike's stuff on X-Force 8, though, is right around the time of like my peak Mike art, Cosmic Odyssey, that style. I mean, that X-Force 8 looks nothing like the Hulk stuff.
No, not at all. No.
Stuff.
He changed. You saw a little bit of it in Rocket Raccoon, but Cosmic Odyssey was like the big shift.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite jobs by Mike was one of his first ones, and it was that Namor backup in Marvel Fanfare. I mean, that job was very like Frazetta-esque because there was more feathering in it and stuff and rendering, but I agree. Like, we've talked about this. Cosmic Odyssey is just it for.
Yeah, he also did. What was the Fanfare story? The one where Peter Parker's having the nightmare?
That the backup was?
Yeah.
No, I think it was a Dave Cockrum.
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
Was it the Dave Cockrum Blackhawk type characters from Marvel? Obviously not Blackhawk. I want to say I should have pulled that issue out, but
so speaking of which. Marvel Fanfare.
Yeah.
And I know this did not give the love back in the day, but when this came out, especially the first few issues that had X-Men in it, Marvel Fanfare was just the coolest.
You're not going to go wrong with Michael Golden.
Nope.
No.
I mean, this run was great. This is 80s. And you were talking about, like you mentioned, a lot of the guys from 89. But when I think of them, to me, they're all 90s guys because that's when they really hit it. They broke in. Which brings me up to a question. what do you guys consider this?
70s.
Didn't most of the run fall in the in the 80s though?
Yeah, but isn't that 78 right there?
Nope.
Yeah, what year's that?
This is December of 79.
Oh shit.
That's what I was saying. So you got to realize that
other than issue number 1, the entire other 74 issues plus annuals were all the 80s. This was the only one that squeezed in for Christmas of 79.
See, you know what though? Weren't they running those toy ads for ROM in comics prior to the book?
Well, they had the toys, yes, because that's when, but that was Hasbro was running just toy ads, and that was while they were still meshing together what they were able to do for licensing.
Well, that's why my little kid brain thought it was earlier, is because when you're a little kid, I think about my first instance of ROM, and it was earlier, but the comic, that makes sense.
Dude, I was so excited for that ROM toy when it came out. Oh, the light up, the sound, the neutralizer. And then I got it, and I was like, oh.
I heard it sucked.
The arm, this is it. And I was like, wow, there's no articulation, no nothing. They cheapened out on it, and really it sucked. It did. I couldn't have been sadder. And it's too bad because the storylines were so good. The dire wraiths and how they interwove everything in there, that was just...
Was that Ditko in there? Series. Was it Ditko? Who did those?
Well, Sal did most of it too, and then the end of the run of ROM was Ditko being inked by every issue was inked by somebody else. John Byrne inked an issue. P. Craig Russell inked an issue.
That's got to be beautiful.
Bob Layton, I believe, inked a few. I mean, there were a bunch. I mean, this is a great one too. Paul Smith, X-Men.
Yep,
that's all 80s, and of course X-Men Alpha Flight.
Well, it's part of that Asgardian Wars trade paperback.
But just his X-Men stuff alone was just,
Well, think about that.
Brought up Rob. I was just going to say, these were all the other big ones that came out with ROM along those things.
Hey, don't forget Care Bears, He-Man,
Transformers,
Care Bears, He-Man, Smurfs.
It's true, but those were Star Comics, and I love He-Man and Thundercats, but that was their kid line.
Yeah.
So
hey, but the other thing I noticed, outside of some longer storylines, what were the 80s not the birthplace of events?
Wasn't Secret Wars the first big event?
Nope. Contest of Champions was the first time that they brought in, I believe, and you guys can correct me wrong, it's 82, and that was a 3-issue miniseries, and they brought all the superheroes together. That was the first time that happened.
Okay. Well, that was supposed to coincide with the Olympics that year, and I can't remember. I believe it was on one of Rob Liefeld's podcasts a year or so ago. He mentioned it. It was supposed to coincide with the Olympics, but then something happened with the Olympics that year, and Shooter and stuff was like, okay, we got to change this.
Was it the Munich stuff?
It could have been.
Was it?
Yeah, it might have been the Munich stuff. Was that 82?
I think.
And whatever it was something. And Shooter was like, okay, this can't be with the Olympics anymore. We'll just obviously, whatever, change the name. And I don't know if there was any Olympic branding that was supposed to be in it. I don't think so.
No, Munich was 72.
Oh.
Man, good history, Fraga Boom.
Yeah.
But you said it was 82? I thought the Olympics were 80. 80
it was 80, 84. And that was, the big hockey.
Well, it might have been 84 when Contest came out.
Okay, yeah.
80? What year did Contest come out? Because that was some of JR's still early work, and I don't think 84 is early JR. I mean, it is when you look at how long he's been doing it now, but back then, the Soviets boycotted.
June to August of 82
is when Contest came out.
Yep.
So maybe it was supposed to be for. It might have supposed to have been for the 1980 Olympics. And then something happened, so they pushed it off a few and
Bernardo
finally put it out.
Oh, okay. Summer Games in Russia. A boycott.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, that's good stuff. But then people keep mentioning Zek. Zek is what got me into comics. Captain America 275. I've got almost his whole run. Well, I do have all of Zek's run, just not in my hand. But that's where I first discovered Mike Zek. And I still look at this stuff, and to me, we've talked about this before in previous shows of when you think of a character, who is the artist you most recognize to go along with that character. And to me, when you mentioned Cap, I think of Mike Zek.
Oh, weird. I think of Kirby.
Nope. This is the Cap I grew up on. It's like Hulk. Hey, when I think of Incredible Hulk, I think of Sal Buscema, 80s.
So Pastmaster Dan said, when did they start running ads while streaming?
I don't know.
That's really weird.
Did you guys just get an ad? I mean, I'm curious now. I haven't on our end. It's uninterrupted. So just leave a comment down below if you guys are getting ads, that's something new during a live stream. And then Kevin's got a good suggestion. Guys, you can always use uBlock Origin, and if you are getting ads, it will remove them.
Yeah, that's weird.
Wow, yeah. So I see a bunch of you guys just got ads. Wow, maybe it was the topic.
Strange.
They just think it's a good time to do it. Well, somebody mentioned, you guys were talking Mike Zek, and it was really this whole. You really started the storyline when you're dealing with, Spider-Man 300 Venom, the first black costume. You're back in 252. I mean, this was a huge, incredible run of Spider-Man that went all the way up through. Really, I would even say when they introduced Carnage around 361.
Right,
man, that run was electric.
Yes.
I remember first time I saw Todd's stuff was the Hulk 345, the one where he's coming through the logo. And I remember thinking, this is the coolest looking Hulk I've seen since Byrne. Like this is nuts, and like he's so cool looking. He looks like an elephant, kind of, and then I had to go back and get that because it had Wolverine. And then I remembered thinking, I like this McFarlane guy, but I like him more when he inks his own work. And then my comic shop told me, yo, he's over on Spider-Man. So I got 298 off the stands, 299 off the stands, and 300. I remember exactly where I was standing when I flipped through 300. What a fucking moment. But you're right.
I just had to buy the facsimile edition of it because I don't have I don't own a 300, so I bought the facsimile that came out last week.
Yeah. I mean, dude, those were the times, man. Those were the times.
Well, and it's funny because I look at this and that's what I think of when I think of what comics look like and stuff. And it is based a lot on even the newsprint and the coloring. I mean, I still love newsprint and the coloring and stuff and just the stories. I mean, we didn't touch on it, but Thor, Simonson's Thor.
Yep.
Another book that wasn't really on my radar. And then just something about this dude's artwork, because this is the first I ever saw of Simonson stuff. Yeah. And then after this is when I discovered, the stuff at DC before, Dr. Fate, Metal Man, Hercules, Manhunter, of course.
Manhunter.
But this was my introduction to Simonson, was this Thor stuff. And I was just like, good Lord, look at this dude's art. It just, when you can look at somebody's art and it really just kind of moves you or just gets you this visceral reaction of just like, damn,
And then he puts out Beta Ray Bill. And for me, I enjoyed Thor and I always thought he was cool. But I didn't always collect them 100% of the time. But man, when Beta Ray Bill came out, bam.
The funny thing is, going through my comics just recently, I still have a lot of my Thors that I bought back then, but I'm missing a few issues in there, and I'm missing the damn one where it's hold it up. That's not it. I thought you were going to hold up the Thor.
That's a good run. That's
nice.
We were talking Simonson, and guys, for me, anything that has to do with the X-Men, but I mean, when the X Factor did an offshoot, and then this is the same time frame where, you look at that. So you wound up getting Apocalypse, the launch of Apocalypse, and Walt and Louise, and man, again, that for me, that is just phenomenal stuff. Love Simonson's.
I feel weird bringing this up because I'm the last guy to be like, oh, let's celebrate DC's wins in the 80s. We touched on Man of Steel and a little bit on The Dark Knight, but how about Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yes.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, I wasn't a big DC guy. I was getting Green Lantern here and there because I'm a Green Lantern guy. I loved it when Dave Gibbons came on. That was in the 80s. But yeah, Crisis, I was just like, what is this? This 12-issue thing. Of course, it was after Secret Wars. So, DC growing up, and even to this day, they're always playing catch up to Marvel. Whereas it's always like, Marvel, you try it first. Oh, that worked. Now we'll do it.
Yeah. They did some cool stuff. If we have to talk a little DC.
Oh, I mean, Lobo first.
Gotta have Lobo there. Lobo was introduced to us in the 80s, and still a dynamic, electrifying character. And if they're gonna bring him in, let's have Jason Momoa go and do him. I think he would be great. Just saying. If anybody
now, what did you like better though, Secret Wars or Crisis?
Who are you talking to? Talking about
everyone?
Probably nobody. He just talks to himself. I honestly don't know if I could choose between the two. I was more of a Marvel guy, so I had more of an interest in the Secret Wars. However, I thought the story was just so good. For me, it's a draw. It really would be. And
I can easily say Secret Wars.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funner.
Yeah, and it had a toy line. It had a toy line.
Well,
yeah.
No, but I mean, think about this. This is one of the times where I feel like they got it right. The branding of Secret Wars, the comic, and the branding of Secret Wars toys felt like they came from the comic. The figures had the Mike Zeck sort of stance to them. The branding, the logos, everything lined up.
Yep.
And to me, especially being of the right age, that hit me right.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, DC tried the toy thing with superpowers, but that just,
they were cool. They were cool, but they didn't feel like they were linked to anything. And they tried to link it, but it was Kirby, and it was a big misstep. Right. Oh, Praetors coming at your
funner
instead of more fun.
I knew somebody would.
It was more fun. It was the funnest.
It was the funniest.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I like, Paul says Crisis undid the trope of nobody stays dead in comics except Bucky and Uncle Ben. But yeah, I don't, killing off Flash and killing Supergirl. I mean, they definitely got Crisis was, like I said, Crisis was good. It was just heavier, story-wise.
My favorite comic of all times came out of the 80s, which is Dark
Knight.
Yeah.
Well, X-Men Teen Titans, that was 80s.
There you go.
Killing
Joke. Let's not forget Killing Joke.
Killing Joke. I bought 4 copies of Killing Joke
because of the neon, the different bright green.
Oh hell no! No way. No, those were all different printings. I bought 4 copies of the first print.
Why?
I don't know. It was a speculating thing. and I still have probably 3 of them, 2 or 3 of them. I know for a fact I have 2. I might have 3. Because Wolverine blew up pretty good, the miniseries, and I only bought 1 of each of those. So then, like a dipshit, when Nightcrawler came out, I bought 2 of each of those, and those things aren't worth a damn thing.
Sadly.
But look, there's Marvel, there's DC, but what else came out in the 80s?
Turtles.
Nexus.
There you go.
Sorry, Mike Barron. I'm like the Ninja Turtles. Yeah, Mike Barron, Steve Root.
Nexus, baby.
Amazing stuff.
Nexus was just another one for me art-wise. I was just like, whoa, what is with this artwork? I've never seen anything really like this before. Right. Now, obviously, now being in the business and looking back, you can go, oh, Steve Root's roots are X, Y, and Z.
Andrew
but back
Loomis
then,
and Jack Kirby. And
yeah.
Toth.
And Toth. But back then, I didn't know who Toth was.
Right.
And you couldn't really get a big sense of Kirby out of this early Nexus stuff.
Look at the composition on that cover, dude.
No, yeah, but as a kid, I wasn't looking at composition and stuff.
There. Yeah.
Nope.
So,
and the
Rocketeer, Elementals.
Yeah.
Blackjack. I love the Elementals. I bought that when it came out. I thought Bill Willingham's art was really cool.
Wasn't Mage the 2000s? Wasn't Mage the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. But my favorite of the independent ones, I actually went to see if I still had it, and I thought I purged it, and I did. The Crow. James O'Barr came out with the Crow Caliber back then, the original first prints. And dude, that was awesome stuff.
So do you regret getting rid of them?
You got Miracle Man.
I bought those too, yeah.
Yeah, the 80s, man. Damn it. Do we feel like old men right now?
Everything's 80s. The music is always about the 80s music, the comic books. When I say we grew up in one of the best decades, even my kids enjoy all the shit from the 80s.
What? I know Dennis and I talked about this before. I want to say, Dan, you and I did too, but if technology stopped like right at the 80s, like the end of the 80s,
oh, what a great world.
I wouldn't care.
Right.
I mean, obviously now having the technology we have, the cell phone, just being able to do this, it's fantastic. And I'm not saying it's not, but you can have too much. I mean, you think computers, when it comes to work, would help, and they do, but at the same time,
now they want it faster. And now everybody expects things to be faster.
They expect things faster. Yeah. It's not just, when I obviously I started drawing comics in 91, not the 80s, but close enough. It was still fax machines and FedEx. And it was like, okay, I need some more paper. Here comes a big FedEx box of paper. I need my script. What's your fax number? Here it comes. Through the fax, and it's like, okay, pages are done, fill the voucher, make photocopies, because I had a photocopy machine, throw them in a FedEx box, off they go.
FedEx, Art to Bear, when he was talking about FedEx, that gives me anxiety, because I remember like racing to FedEx and seeing a train and trying to like make sure I get across the train track before the train, and just super anxiety days, but your thing about technology, I brought this up, and I think it was in that same conversation, and it's an interesting thing. I saw this meme that said your parents raised you for a reality that no longer exists, something like that, and I felt like it was very true, because I have that fortunate happenstance that my father, me, and my son Harrison all fall on threes, our birthdays. So I'm 30 years younger than my dad. Harrison's 40 years younger than me. And so I'm always comparing, what was it like for my dad to be 10? What was the world like in 1953, right? And then I look at what was the world like in 1983, and I go, they weren't that much different. We rode our bikes. Yeah. We read comics. We listened to the radio. Sure, in 1983 we had the advent of color TV and cable was coming around, but not much different as far as 10-year-olds go. Harrison, who's 10 now, compared to my childhood at 10, unrecognizable. Like, he didn't want to go ride his bike. He doesn't build forts. He doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's like entirely different.
Yeah.
He's got VR.
Well, it's funny because for me, so that it was 53 and 83 for you. For me, my dad was 10 and 49 and I was 10 and 79. So 30 years.
You got that.
And they're really, and you're right. There wasn't a huge thing because look at it now. Look at 93 compared to 2023 and how much shit is just totally different. Like if you were 10
now, 2003 to now.
2003 to now.
2013, not so much. Maybe some streaming and some VR and what we got going on right now. Not as much in the last 10, except for AI. AI. Sorry, guys. Didn't mean to take us in that bad place.
No,
it's not a bad place. It's a different place. I was going to bring up one of the books, which was a personal favorite of mine, just because that's when the mullet started coming up, and we can thank Long Shot for that.
Hell yeah! No, we could thank Kaja Gugu for that.
Yeah, Joe Dirt came later, but Art Adams, when he did that mini series and he pulled it from it, that was just another. For me, it was just a fantastic run. That mini.
Well, okay. Art Adams had, and I think Liefeld might have talked about this too, but he had a blessed sort of smoke and mirrors introduction into comics, like Longshot. He had Longshot and the New Mutants summer specials. Those were basically banked, and they started coming out regularly. And then this annual comes out, and then this summer special comes out, and it's this like incredible run of this bananas detailed, I can't believe it style. And the cadence in which it came out was very regular. But the cadence in which it was created was not. It was like over a few years. But it came out over like a year. So it made the world, when the world was introduced to this Art Adams guy who seemed superhuman.
Yeah. Because when it came, and all three of us can remember going to the shop and picking all that stuff up when it came out.
Oh yeah.
And just being like, who is this guy? Who's this fully formed guy? That is like, boom, long shot. 1, 2, 3. What was it? 6 issues?
6 issues, double sized on issue 6.
Yeah, and then after Long Shot, like you said, the New Mutant, or was it during Long Shot that the New Mutants came out? Because I don't remember.
It may have been. We'd have to check in Disha,
but the point is, it was just like you said, bam, bam, bam of this guy's stuff, and you're like, where'd this guy come from?
Yep.
And as kids, you don't know any better, and you're looking at it, and you're like, this guy's doing this every month,
right? Web of Spider-Man annual. That's right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Number two. What a great comic of artwork, but the worst color job I've ever seen. The colors and reproduction on Web of Spider-Man 2 were terrible. I'd like to see an artist edition of that stuff. That would be great.
Oh. I was just looking. Because there was a couple I don't think I pulled it. I was going to pull out Marvel Spotlights, because the Marvel Spotlight number 6, I think it is 6 or 7. I think it's 6. Everybody loves Star-Lord right now. I mean, he's one of the few things that Marvel's got going. That was when he made his first appearance. Was I think it's 6.
Yeah.
And then another great thing, when he finally got his own due.
Oh yeah.
Moon Knight got his first solo series. He had been in a couple of the issues earlier, but he finally got a solo series, and Moon Knight finally became a thing.
And while we did have the undergrounds in the late 60s and early 70s, I really feel like the big black and white explosion was in the 80s.
Wasn't Love and Rockets 80s?
I believe so. You had Love and Rockets, the Ninja Turtles, Boris the Bear, all of the animal anthropomorphic kung fu geriatric karate.
But I mean, all of that really did come out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
A lot of it did, but we had mentioned Sable, Mage. Like, think of all the comic companies that were popping in like 85, 86.
Yep.
You know, that's when I remember thinking, especially when Eric Larson. Anyway, fuck that guy. So, sidebar. The whole idea, like when people say they try to crush your dreams, right? You're not going to draw comics.
That's right.
Maybe not for DC and Marvel. You know, like when I saw especially living in the Bay, you got like Slave Labor Graphics, you got Star Reach Productions, you got Eclipse, you got what was the
Tank
one?
Girl.
First
Tank Girl.
That's right.
Megaton, because that's where
Savage
Savage Dragon got his first appearance. I think was in the second issue.
That's right, and Youngblood's first appearance was in Megaton.
Yeah,
that was all Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought Moon Knight was their basic Batman, but with a different take. You know, the three different personalities. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I liked.
And no, this is actually a better point. Nighthawk is more of a Batman with his being wealthy and all that stuff. You know, Nighthawk, Dennis's favorite character.
Yeah, I just love Nighthawk. I sit up there and think a lot about that character and go,
but I tell you what,
I wish I had more of that.
You do. Megaton did come out. I wouldn't call it an omnibus because it's actually very affordable. They did just put out a trade paperback of all the Megaton stuff. It's only like $30. Yeah,
that's cool. You know, the other thing about the 80s that comics were a big piece of, we touched on it a little bit about like the IPs, you know, the Transformers, the Micronauts, the G.I. Joe, Thundercats, but also we had Knight Rider, we had Airwolf, we had Street Hawk, we had T.J. Hooker, we had
Automan.
Automan with Desi Arnaz Jr. baby. That was such a show, dude.
We had Fall Guy.
The energy, the music, like, again, not trying to be fuddy-duddy on anybody, but like the music was right, the television was right, the movies were right. All of the comics were right. I'm with you, Andy. We could have just stopped right there.
I think the TV stuff. Oh yeah, and Blackjack says Squadron Supreme by Mark Grunwald. That's a great book.
It was
that limited series.
A-Team, another great
TV show. What I was going to say is, and see if you guys agree. I think TV, in regards to, I guess almost the grittiness of it and stuff, took a turn. Wouldn't you say with Hill Street Blues? That was 80s, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yep.
MASH was 70s.
It finished in the 80s.
It finished in the 80s.
So many seasons.
Okay.
But most of it, I believe, was
after MASH.
I can't believe in myself.
What was before?
That's Greatest American Hero, baby. I got all the seasons sitting right over here.
Thank you, Joe Bernardo.
Oh, yeah, dude. Greatest American Hero.
Suddenly I'm on top of the world.
William Pat's greatest role.
Miami Vice, Magnum PI.
Dude,
the fashion who didn't have a white sport coat?
Who didn't have the sweet fucking Simon Le Bon / Indiana Jones / Tom Selleck hat? You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
That was the heavy metal. That was the decade for heavy metal. It was. I just posted. I picked up my heavy metal issue #1 in damn near mint shape. So was my.
That's kind of hard to find.
Dude, I've never seen it at the show before. I've never held one, even in any of the collections.
Yeah, because mostly cool guys had them back then, and cool guys weren't as precious. And by cool guys, I mean weed smokers. A lot of those folks, they weren't easy on their books.
That's true. Paul Taylor, thanks for the $10. Another awesome topic, gentlemen. Here's one I loved. The Squadron Supreme miniseries. You are correct. This gave me the JLA fix while DC was turning the JLA into the New Mutants. Yeah, I got to admit, I wasn't big into the Justice League. I liked some of the stuff in the 80s, but it really wasn't until they brought him back, because this was the 80s with Keith Giffen and Kevin McGuire.
Yeah,
that I really got into it again.
Yeah, when Batman punches Guy Gardner.
Oh yeah, dude,
that was such a go ahead, hit me in the pow.
Just knocks him out.
They had some good stuff, but they weren't as hard hitting as Marvel was in the 80s.
Right.
They came the new Teen Titans. I mean, we did get the first the new Deathstroke, the new team. That was actually really decent.
And that picked up steam too. I mean, I remember when Teen Titans came out, but was number one, was it really a home run out of the park seller when it first came out, or did it take a while to build up steam? Because I don't remember.
It was a pretty big hit. I don't want to say it was spectacular. I mean, it wasn't like another one from the 80s. The Punisher limited series came out in the 80s, which was a game changer in my mind.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, no, it totally was. I mean, that's what really. I mean, besides his first appearance and stuff.
Dude, we're talking DC. Saga the Swamp Thing. All the Swamp Thing stuff came out in the 80s.
What, really? The Bernie Wrightson stuff?
When,
no.
Oh, you're talking Beach and more.
Well, it started with Tom Yates, which I really liked.
That's where they brought Constantine into the forefront and stuff. That was his first appearance and everything when Swamp Thing really became big.
Right there, man.
Circle of Blood, dude.
Oh, dude, I saw that and I was just like, what the?
Yo, those covers. I remember I was friends with these twins, Brian and Chris Hansborough, and they brought the first Punisher of the miniseries with that cover, and I remember thinking this is the most badass shit I've ever seen. This is before I knew that Mike Zeck was the same guy that did the G.I. Joe covers that I loved. And I don't know which came first, the Punisher or this, because your brain gets a little scrambled. But I remember seeing this stuff and thinking that's what badass looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the British stuff I got into back then was pretty much I found them at a comic shop, and I think these came out in the 70s. No, they came out in the 80s. The Captain Marvel. What was the magazine called though? But it was Captain Britain by Alan Davis in the new costume, the one that looked like the British flag.
The 2000 AD.
No, that wasn't the name of the magazine. I don't think
that
Warrior
was
magazine.
Warrior magazine, I think. I still have those that I bought.
Yeah.
My Captain Britain's, I think that's all the 70s.
Not the. 70s? I don't think that. No, the Alan Davis stuff was with Alan Moore was the 80s.
Yeah. And that stuff was so solid. I remember that I got a Christmas present, and it was a How to Draw and Sell Comic Books by Alan McKenzie, right? And it was the first book I ever got that was about comics that wasn't here, I'll pull it up. Andy's got this, huh?
Well, because it rings a bell, and I'm trying to think if I had it or have it. Yeah, that's not the one I'm talking about.
What I was thinking of, the Captain Britain. So this was because for me this was 70s. This is the Captain Britain ones that I was collecting. I didn't do a lot from over there, and obviously this is a big deal because it's first Betsy Braddock. So us X-Men fix guys.
Well, I will say a magazine that I would try to get every month, and I still have most of them from the 80s. And this is unfortunately a blank cover one because they just started putting it out again. Cartoons, baby.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
man.
my.
That was
I still have most,
grade.
and I got this like a year and a half, 2 years ago through their website because I do want to do a sketch cover on it of Batman and the Batmobile, but do it really cartoon style.
Yeah, dude. I was drawing cars like cartoons before I knew I wanted to draw. You know
Same
what I mean?
here.
Like in 3rd grade, the big blowers and the huge wheels and the pipes with the smoke. Yeah, man, that was
Dude,
amazing.
Same here. And the funny thing is, so this magazine does, I'm pretty sure it does still come out, but one of the main artists was George Trostley, right?
Didn't know him.
Yeah, George Trostley is the guy that that did a recurring strip in it, which the name of the strip is blanking on me now. But Dan, you might be interested to know George Trostley put out Camelot 3000, yeah.
That was
put out a
fantastic.
book. He put out a how to draw book, how to draw cars.
Oh, dude!
Because remember in cartoons magazines, all the how to draw cars stuff.
Yes,
that was all Trostley, and he put out a book.
That's what me and my friends would look at.
Same here.
If you share my screen real quick, this is the Alan McKenzie.
Oh yeah.
Book. This is it right here. How to draw and sell comic strips for newspapers.
Yes.
And books. Somebody.
I used to check that out from the library.
Yes.
I check it out. I would take it back, and I'd go, "Is this on anybody's like want list?" They'd go, "No," and I'd be like, "I'd like to recheck it out."
Yeah. So this is the first time I'd ever seen Alan Davis's work, because this Alan McKenzie guy, he's British, and
no way, it was in that book.
Yeah, there's a Captain Britain standing in a doorway, and it shows that like the doorway comes to here, and he was talking about scale, and I'm like, I don't know who drew that, I don't know who that character is, but that is the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen. And I copied that drawing so many damn times, but it was in this book.
Dan, my friend, let me show you. You say you copied it many times. That left such an impression on me because that was from the magazine, right?
Oh, it was in that book. I don't know about it. Was probably in the magazine you're talking about.
It was, but that left such an impression on me, Dan.
Oh, yes. Yes. Exactly right. It just shows scale. It's the John Wayne.
That's why I did that.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, I love that. And every now and then, if I can homage something that just had an effect on me as a kid. Oh, and I did find, by the way, it was underneath that one. There you go. There's one of the, and this isn't that recent. This is freaking, let's see.
I want that 1982 shit. You know what I mean?
No, like I said, I still have them. They're just in a box.
That's awesome.
This is
2020. 2020? Yeah, you can see. I mean, when we were looking at that stuff in the 80s, it was all the good muscle cars, which, you know, before what happened, the Econo gas crisis, which made like a Mustang, it turned a Mustang from a muscle car to like a piece of crap. Like,
thank you, Jimmy
Econo box.
See, I'm surprised Dennis doesn't own this magazine because, like Mad Magazine, it has parodies. Smokey and the Bandito.
That's rad. That's rad.
Snowman's on the road again.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, dude, I love this book.
It was cartoons, cracked, mad,
crazy.
Yeah.
Dynamite.
I didn't get Dynamite.
Spy versus Spy, yes.
Good times.
Hold on, let me get that.
I gotta get going pretty soon.
So do I.
You got a movie.
We're gonna wrap it because I gotta get my kid. What are the chances of a live stream playthrough of the new Kor-Drath game with CG Kings? I mean, I don't think the Kings would do it, but we could probably wrangle up enough guys. Dennis would have to I don't know if that's something you can do on a live stream if you have to be in person. But Dan, here, let me show you this because I know how you are with books like me. For all I know, you might go to Amazon right after.
Trosley's. Okay, TR. Rosleys. What's crazy is I recognize that signature immediately.
Dude, this is the guy.
It brought back memories. That's crazy.
This is the guy. And look, if you want to bring back memories, this is straight out of it, baby. Look at that.
Yes. Dude, look at the energy. It's like Jack Kirby of cars, right? Like you could feel it, that maybe that's where Michael Golden got it from, you know? Like taking that inanimate object and giving it an action line and like some poise. I guess that's the word, poise.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, Scott Robertson's really good.
Oh, Scott Robertson. I mean, yeah, he's great. But
yeah, all that
this goes into color.
Stuff. Nice. Color. I got my own ideas. I like those shapes. I like that energy.
Yeah, look at the curve to the car.
That's where it's at. And the hang, it's crazy because the back wheels are pushing and the front wheels are kind of hanging like they got pulled up.
Yeah, yeah.
Like my balls.
All right, guys, we do have to wrap it because I got to get my kid. We got to catch a movie. Talking to 80s is always fun. Having Fraga Boom on, of course, is always a highlight.
Thanks for having me.
We might have to do one with the 70s if we can see it before I leave. Otherwise, maybe when I get back.
Wait, you get back? What's up?
He's going on a cruise. Who cares?
As he does. Hey, listen, I'm not going to be as informed as the in the 70s, other than from someone who has gone and dipped into it, because I didn't start buying until like with my own money going. I'm a comic book guy until early '84. So
I look at it like this: Dan was Bobby C. Rob Hunter was perfect for the 90s, being a 90s child like he was. I thought you 80s, honestly 70s. My mind goes to Aaron Lopresti.
I was just gonna say Aaron Lopresti. Yep.
And now that we do it, guys, just so you know, Wednesdays, the Dennis and Andy show is moving to 3 p.m. on Wednesdays, 3 to 4. Get your DNA fix. At 4 o'clock, jump on over to the Graybeards. So that's what we're doing. So maybe next week it'll be the DNA show 70s with Aaron Lopresti. But before we go, Kor-Drath the Reckoning. It says $85,824. We are actually at $90,585 with the 2 campaigns.
Awesome.
We need to get to the 100,000 mark so we can get the wonderful 4-page. Well, actually, so you guys can get the Bud Root 4-page Lillineth story.
He's so good.
Dan Lawless has this in his hands for coloring. So he is coloring on this. Bud's working on the 2-3 spread as we speak. And then he has 1 page left. So guys, go check out the campaign. If you're new to the show, Barbarian, Kor-Drath, his tribe is slaughtered. He's got to find out why and who's behind it. Links are in the description below. Go check it out. Thank you for joining us. We will be dropping a movie review tomorrow of Equalizer 3.
Tomorrow morning.
With Denzel. So we will catch you guys later. Thank you for joining us. Dan, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
I got to literally take off if you two want to wrap it up after
I got a meeting.
Yeah. We are out.
All right, guys.
See you in a few at the movie, Dennis.
Prosper.
See you, gentlemen.
Yeah. Bye.